Good morning. Thank you for watching Taxes Made Easy here on the smartmoneyculture.tv. And we've got a very interesting show today. We've got a lot of news, things to cover today. One of the big things we're going to be talking about, and the topic for the day is going to be on passport revocations. Can the IRS revoke my passport? And what does that look like? It's kind of scary to think about it, but they can, and they have been since 2018. They have been revoking passports. So this is something that has definitely been stepped up. It's happening more, especially in the last few years. So we're going to talk about when does it happen, what to be concerned about, and how to prevent it. So this is something that definitely affects people, especially those that travel for business. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of information, news to cover as well. But again, I'm going to be focusing on passport revocations. Welcome back, everybody. And again, thank you for watching live or on rebroadcast. And today, got a lot of news to cover, and we're going to just dive right in. First article here is kind of an interesting article talking about, a new poll came out. Might be a lot of people quitting their jobs, or a higher percentage of people want to quit their jobs, especially among Gen Z. But the fun part of this here is the jobs aren't there to the same extent. So again, it's saying nearly half of Americans, Gen Z, Generation Gen Z, are planning to leave their jobs in the next year. But again, this could lead to mass resignations. We saw this around 2022, all kinds of new jobs. People were hiring right and left. And the problem is, again, the report is released Monday, 48% of Americans said they were likely to search for a new job in the next 12 months. So likely to search for a job doesn't mean they actually will quit their job, but that they're dissatisfied with their current job and looking to improve it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. The thing is, make sure you have something in hand before you move on. 39% saying they plan to quit their jobs this year in the next 4 months. That's actually pretty quick. So that's for Gen Z, whereas that was down to 25% of all workers. If you went to millennials, it was only 29%, 19% for Generation X, and only 11% for baby boomers. Concern here, and so this is a sample size of 2,300, so a sizable sample done by YouGov. The concern here is the job market is not doing so hot right now. So people looking for new jobs with higher pay or more flexible conditions might be sorely disappointed. And this is from Bankrate Senior Economic Analyst. It's not the red hot job market coinciding with the reopening of the economy back in 22. It's more akin to before the pandemic, wasn't as secure, and also the job market has cooled with the interest rates going up. Now, a lot of people I believe they will finally cut rates, but whether or not that will change in the short term, the job market, I don't think so. The main reason I don't think so is because it's cooled for many underlying reasons, and interest rates are just one of them. So, interesting thing there to watch out though for and pay attention. One of the best advice given here really is toward the end, and this talks about the unemployment numbers. And in July, only 114,000 jobs were added. That's about half to 3 times what the economy actually needs. So again, very low here. That's not to say people should stay put in a job they don't like. However, it's becoming more important to have a game plan upon your exit. the days of easy job hopping might be coming to a close. So again, that's really the takeaway. If you are considering leaving your job, have a plan. Don't feel like you can just hop from job to job without consequences, because things are getting a little crazier in the job market. On that same vein, again, we got last few months, jobs have been very weak, and this isn't helping. So the article, this is from Yahoo Finance. I'm quoting an article from Reuters. So U.S. labor agencies, so Chipotle is being targeted by U.S. Labor Department for denying raises to unionized workers. So they're saying that one Chipotle grill location refused to give raises to workers at a Michigan restaurant after they became the first and only employees of the fast food chain to unionize. So the National Labor Relations Board, and this has been in the news a lot, for really going after companies and consumers, companies in many ways. And they're being sued by quite a few. So by quite a few companies too. So again, last year, they paid $240,000 to settle a separate NLRB case, claiming it illegally shuttered a store that had a campaign, a union campaign there. So this has been ongoing. The problem is they don't have a contract yet. So you're supposed to give them raises and continue on when you don't have a contract yet. So it's are you dealing with an individual or are you dealing with the union here? And they're figuring this out, not to say Chipotle's innocent here, but by forcing unionization on essentially a fast food location is hurting companies when they're already hurting. This is causing a lot of damage, and they might be happy to pay a $240,000 settlement just to close some of these locations that are already struggling to be profitable. So again, there's a series of lawsuits, 5 filed this month, claiming that the in-house enforcement proceedings violate the Constitution. SpaceX, pipeline operator energy transfer, just a couple, where the NLRB is going after them and they're suing back and fighting back. So again, we have a very aggressive NLRB under the Biden administration. And again, these practices and efforts to unionize, Starbucks has been hit with the same thing, are causing plenty of problems. And we have restaurants and locations closing throughout the country, which is not the time to add more pressure on businesses. But again, here we go. So interesting, and this is touching on Trump sharing exciting details on Elon Musk's role in the next administration. And to be fair, there's not much detail here. This is from the Daily Fetch. And, again, trying to talk about flesh out policies, what to expect from, President Trump and Vice President Harris, so, and their economic plans. So, again, this is almost like a puff piece on Trump and Musk. I mean, people love the idea. They both are very well-known people. Talking about having him ready to serve, and even doing a meme with him with the Department of Government Efficiency. I'm willing to serve. Any details on this department, which Congress would have to approve, it's not there. I mean, I have to pass Congress. So, excuse me. What I get, not to be super critical of Trump, but to be critical of him. I mean, it really was, when he talked with Elon Musk, it really came out as a bro fest from what I saw. You want to cut the government? I don't want to cut the government. Let's cut the government together. Short on details here. And so people are excited about this, but again, the only main thing is here is using artificial intelligence to greatly improve government efficiency. Now, do I love the idea of government efficiency? Absolutely. Do I love the idea of artificial intelligence serving the public? Not so much. It is already being adopted, though. So the IRS is already using artificial intelligence in many ways. They're trying to increase customer service or change their phone trees to use artificial intelligence, which private companies are doing. I just don't see the government being as responsive to needs. And there needs to be someone that you can actually talk to and communicate with. I negotiate with the IRS and states every single day of the week. It concerns me, the idea that we're just going to use artificial intelligence or overuse it. So if he's running a business and he overuses that or he cuts it too much, the business will pay the price. The government does it. Taxpayers' rights can be in jeopardy. Again, you can say the way the IRS functions today, they're already in jeopardy. But I don't want to say, hey, let's just charge ahead and do it. So that's really all they say in this article. Not a whole lot, but it is a matter of concern. The next, did I stop that? I did stop sharing. So here's the article from the Daily Fetch. Again, they're excited about it, but short on details. Next article, and we're going to see a thread here, and I'm going to spend some time on this. Canada is slapping 100% import tariffs on Chinese EVs over unfair competition. And it's not just EVs, they're also doing a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports from China. Why? Because they cheat like crazy. They're facing their Canadian industries are facing unfair competition because they're subsidized like crazy by the communist government. This is not news. This is not anything new, but it's good to see Canada is doing something at the same time that the EU is doing something about it. So Canada said they would impose the 100% tariffs following the US and EU and slapping taxes over concerns related to unfair subsidies by the Chinese government. Now, why now? Well, it's good that they're doing it now, but it's been going on for many, many years. And I think it's good that they're finally calling out China. Someone's finally doing something here. So they had a 6.1% tariff, but this 100% tariff will pretty much lock out Chinese EVs from their economy. And this can be a very good thing, especially if people are trying to create and foster long-term EV growth. Relying on China, not a good idea, but it will make EVs more expensive in the country. Chinese-made steel and aluminum is a bad, again, that could be a concern, but again, undercutting foreign competition in a planned way is very damaging to these countries. It's damaging to the United States. And so again, the US and EU have made similar allegations citing China's overcapacity, which they're producing more than their domestic market. They're producing more than they can sell profitably. And they do this through massive subsidies. So now they're flooding markets with at a loss or very, very low profit, which completely undercuts domestic producers in Canada, US, and throughout EU. Now, usually tariffs can be counterproductive in the long run. It can just make things more expensive in that country. But if you have a large enough block hitting the country with tariffs, it can force change. It can have an impact. So not only is it's the Canada, the Biden administration announced in May 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, and the EU also hit EVs with higher tariffs in July. So, and then it slashed some of the planned tariffs, but overall, this is good news, I think, for economic fairness. And I am over my time. So we're going to go ahead and stop and come back to this when we're done after the break. Welcome back, everybody. Just to wrap up that last article, again, talking about how Canada, EU, and the United States are all slapping tariffs on Canadian import or Chinese imports. Um, just to kind of highlight why in Vancouver, just the Port of Vancouver, Chinese EV imports jumped 460% year over year in 2023. And Tesla started shipping EVs directly from a Shanghai factory to Canada, which also led to this. But this isn't the only area that Canada is looking at slapping tariffs on Chinese products, from batteries, semiconductors, and solar products, really hurting domestic production and domestic companies. Um, so again, it's happening. Many countries are doing it, and I think this is a bipartisan issue as well, which I think is a good thing that people are finally seeing and responding to unfair trade practices by China. So going with that, I think I just clicked on the wrong thing. On that theme, one of the reasons China is exporting so much is because their own economy is struggling. So again, last quarter in 2024, foreign investors pulled out nearly 15 billion out of China, turning net investment in the country negative. Foreign direct investment in the United States is going up, so that's good to have that kind of foreign investment on a macro scale. And again, this is from the Epic Times. What has China been doing? They've been cutting interest rates. Sound familiar? But again, cutting interest rates help in the short term. In the long run, though, they don't indicate a healthy economy unless you see good growth year after year. They still have 4.7% GDP growth, but it's much less than what it used to be. And they were shooting for more than 5%. It still has to recover from COVID. Stocks in China have lost 6 trillion in value, and this is forcing manufacturers to close and lay off workers. So domestic consumption in China has stayed low, and you have youth unemployment at around 14%. That's not a good thing when young people can't get jobs or struggle to find jobs. So what has China been doing? Exporting to Russia more than ever. So exporting to Russia, as well as other smaller countries, they've been flooding markets throughout the world. But again, the trade war with the United States and the EU is hurting them. And so they're taking the automobile sector, chips, and other ones overseas. But you have plenty of other companies that aren't friends with China. Toyota, Mitsubishi, Honda, Nissan, and Hyundai from other Asian countries are all scaling back their operations in China. So again, things are not looking good for China. And the interesting thing is the Chinese government, run by Xi, their economic planning, they've claimed that they're going to reform their government and shift to a more sustainable free market model, less dependent on infrastructure, investments, and exports to the detriment of other countries. But nothing's happened so far. So even the most optimistic foreign companies, investors are done waiting and finally pulling their money out of China. And even Chinese companies are doing the same and going overseas. So again, we need sound long-term financial planning. And we see what happens in economies where they get away from that. So on that note, there's been a lot of the news, people fleshing out and discussing, Vice Presidential President Kamala Harris's war on food prices, this idea of price gouging. One of the reasons for this is that this is one policy proposal that's unique to her campaign, and it's not very popular. It's popular to the average consumer, say, oh yeah, we're going to go after grocery prices. And this article from the Daily Caller is not very nice to her on this. So again, it's one of the problems here is that they come out and they claim that price gouging by grocery stores and producers is what's causing prices to go up. Pretty much if you know anything about the grocery industry, it's a misunderstanding about the grocery market and food is that they don't understand basic economic principles here. So when you talk, there's plenty of areas and industries where there is a decent profit margin, new cars, whenever you have processed food, when you, even it's more with processed food, but just selling grocers. I think I shared an article, I think it was last week or the week before, the average profit margin is about 1.18%. And it's razor thin. Grocery stores are highly competitive. You have grocery stores all over the place, and in most areas where it really is an issue here when you claim that they're gouging. So pricing. So again, this author of this article claims he's worked with all types of groceries, and price gouging is not what is driving up the rise in food costs. So again, we have razor thin profit margins, and the spike in prices is a direct result of inflation, which has been mainly driven by printing money like crazy. And it's nothing new. This has been going on for many years, but now that there's an election, they're saying they're going to do something about it. But what are they going to do? Price controls? Go after companies for price gouging and grocers? So, and this is typical in many countries throughout history where they have gone to controls like this, and they blame the corporations, greedy corporations. It's easy to say that, it's easy to publish that, but really it's to cover up their own economic mismanagement. So across the board, it leads to unintended consequences like food shortages, black markets, people trying to avoid these price controls any way they can. Again, everywhere it's been tried, it's been a disaster. Venezuela was once the wealthiest nation in Latin America. Now, the government tried to cap food prices, led to severe shortages, driving millions to flee the country in search of just basic necessities. And it's just a huge problem. Jumping to the next article, because there's a few articles talking about this. And this one from Fox News doesn't pull any punches either. Beyond insane. Economists slam Biden-Harris proposal to tax. Oh, this is actually unrealized gain. This is not going to go there quite yet. So from Hot Air, this is interesting. So Hot Air is definitely a right-leaning website. But most of these quotes are from Democrats in Congress. And what are they saying? Most of it is we're just going to continue with Bidenomics, which was most of our economic platform, and then price gouging. And they're making fun of her mispronouncing the word, but to really get to us, the Washington Post, which is a very liberal paper called as Populist Gimmicks, pointed out that she didn't know anything about the famously low-margin, highly competitive market in groceries. There's not a lot of profit there. So again, this is Washington Post columnist Catherine Rampell on CNN, noting that price controls have failed whenever they've been tried, mainly in socialist or Marxist political systems, Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union. And Argentina has changed courses and going the opposite direction, getting rid of price controls, rent controls, and having some amazing success there. So then you have Democratic lawmakers are quietly delivering a message to anxious allies. Don't worry about this because it's never going to pass Congress. So they're putting out there, this is one of her biggest selling points, one of the biggest proposals she put out this. It's not a new idea. It's reheated. It's overused. It's been used by Democrats by socialists many times, and it's actually hurt people. And the Republicans are beating her up over it. And Donald Trump and fellow Republicans are claiming this is communist price controls. Well, communism, socialism, potato, potato. It's alarmed food industry individuals and even left-of-center economists who've warned that policies can hurt more than they can help. But they're saying it's no chance of passing Congress anytime soon. Even if Democrats win, according to 6 Democrat lawmakers and aides who were granted anonymity to discuss this, they said, it's not viable, it's not happening, don't worry about it. But again, this is not good messaging. Hey, we want to do this, and it appeals to the far left, but to be saying, hey, this isn't going to really happen, don't worry about it. It's cause for concern. Some of these more extreme ideas coming out can absolutely hurt the economy. And in that vein, this next article talking about taxing unrealized investment returns. I touched on this yesterday. Didn't really get a chance to flesh this out. And this is from Fox News. But the Biden administration proposed this, and the Harris campaign has indicated it supports taxing investment returns that have not been realized. So this is taxing people for gain in assets that they haven't sold yet. So they haven't realized any income from this, and the plan is to tax people for this. Again, this is going after people net worth greater than 100 million because they have plenty of money. Let's soak them, right? And there's plenty of ways. They're going to raise the corporate taxes. They're going to increase the Social Security that they're going to be paying, it was the Medicare up to 5%. Effective tax rates, when you plug in state taxes, are going to be, it was like 45% without state taxes, with state taxes, probably 55 to 60% based on the state. That, I mean, if you go out and you make 10 million and pay 60% in taxes, that's brutal. And they're not done. So the move to tax unrealized gains is really going to take anybody that has assets. So again, if you're the super wealthy, if you have assets of more than 100 million, you're going to have to sell items, pull money out of the economy just to pay taxes on it. So it's a minimum tax of 25% on total income, including unrealized capital gains for anybody that has total net worth of 100 million. So if someone owns a company, you're going to have to sell off part of the company just to pay the taxes on the company. So E.G. Antoni, public finance economist with the Heritage Foundation, which is a right-leaning site, says this proposal would literally force people to sell a portion of their investments every year in order to pay the taxes on unrealized gains. But they wouldn't get any of that money until they actually sold it. And so this is purely speculative of how much would they actually get. And the idea here is by taxing unrealized gains, they're not giving anybody any credit for losses. So when you lose money, that's your risk. But if you gain money, now you get to pay taxes on it. So there's nothing in there about that. So it's some people here, it cites Zachary, a Berkeley economist, Gabriel Zuckman, saying, let's go. Let's do this. And yes, that includes the amazing 25% billionaire tax. So really this idea of soaking the rich is going to cause the job creators, the people investing in the economy, more than anything else, to go elsewhere. You're going to see a massive sell-off in U.S. stocks, goods, and investments, and they'll go elsewhere. This is going to drive people out of the country faster than you can blink and cause net losses. So again, this year alone, if they look at NVIDIA, they had roughly 1.18 trillion market value. It jumped up to 3.16 trillion. So if this tax was in place, he would have to pay a 495 billion tax, where the annual earnings are only 40 billion. So their value stock market, their stocks went up like crazy, and they would have to pay a huge tax bill when their actual profits are only 40 billion. So again, it would require people selling off assets that are appreciating because they couldn't afford to pay the taxes elsewhere. So it's very counterproductive. But I want to jump to our main topic of the day. And it's interesting, this is from CNBC, and I get, every now and then I get messages from people writing articles, looking for quotes, looking for information, because they just need to put an article out. And they're not experts in all this. So the IRS has a method of last resort, and parentheses, so not parentheses, but quotes, to collect overdue taxes, revoking your passport. If you think this is a method of last resort, I got a bridge to sell you. It's not being used that way. It's not being used right and left, as you would think. There's a balance there, but just kind of dive into some of the details here. By law, the IRS must notify the State Department since 2018 if an individual's federal tax debt is seriously delinquent. So what qualifies as serious delinquent? Total tax bill must be $62,000 in 2024, and it goes up for inflation every year. And that includes interest, penalties, everything being added to it. That's not the assessed amount. That's what the current balance is. So you could have started off with a much lower balance, and over the years it accrued more and more penalties and interest, and then boop, you qualify, you hit this amount. So if you don't remedy their overdue bill, the government would generally deny their passport applications and can revoke or even limit their active passports. So they're trying to control it so they don't leave people stranded overseas. But again, this is a big issue, and it's happening more and more. So the federal government may revoke your passport, and it's becoming more frequent in recent years. So essentially, what happens if you have a federal debt more than $62,000, and you have, it says if you repeatedly ignored it. So basically, they've been sending you letters and you haven't responded. If you've moved, if your address has changed, something's happened, if you've gotten divorced, which happens very frequently, 62,000 is not a lot in tax debt. We see average people all the time owe more than 60,000. So that's really not a lot. And if they've been sending letters to you and you haven't been getting them, there's a lot of people that get surprised by this. And the article touches on this. People go to travel, they go to fly, and then all of a sudden they're in the airport and they're surprised. What's going on? My passport is suspended. So again, this is something that's surprising people. If you have tax debt or you're not sure what's going on, it's the perfect time to figure it out, especially if you have travel plans and it's not something that's quick or easy. So we're going to take a quick break here and be right back. Welcome back, everybody, and just continuing with this article, um, and how this affects people, because this affects people on a regular basis. So again, this is where it talks about the threshold includes total federal tax liabilities plus penalties and interest, and again, it's levied against an individual. And it's not just individual taxes, it's business taxes, TFRP penalties, anything that is connected to someone's social can lead to a passport being revoked. So it's supposed to be a last ditch effort. Usually, if someone hasn't responded, but I've seen the IRS actually hit taxpayers that are setting up an installment agreement with a passport revocation, especially on large dollar cases. So, and we've had plenty of people that couldn't travel overseas until they set up an installment agreement or other resolution, and it takes months for the IRS system to talk to the IRS and get that straightened out. Again, so here you have Troy Lewis stating that revoking passports is a step of last resort. It should be, but it's happening more and more. And I think this is a pretty silly statement. And how do you get rich folks' attention regarding their paying their taxes? Just make sure they can't summer in Europe. Well, it's a lot more than very few people I've seen have been wanting to take vacations in Europe. It's most people travel for business. They travel to keep, to work on their business, to earn money, and that creates a huge problem for people if you are in that situation. So again, 21.6 million passports were applied for in 2023, record number. And again, another CPA has seen efforts regarding passports jump up in the past 3 years. That's what we've been seeing. And again, they've gotten several cases. I've seen it several times the last couple of years. And again, here's someone that only found about his passport being revoked while trying to fly to Mexico for his son's high school graduation. And it's also quite easy for the tax debt to exceed $62,000. It's not their first way, but again, this is definitely one way that they have been getting people's attention. And while they have been sued over this, so far the courts have all ruled in favor of the IRS, saying that this is a valid legal way to get people's attention. And so, next article here, similar thing. This is from Money Check. So again, it's a lot of the same similar information. So anything over 62,000, it's been upheld by the courts. And again, this is a partnership. So just to give you an idea that when you're facing these issues, when you have tax debt, and I tell people this when they're making any major plans, if you're trying to buy a house, if you want to start a business, some people before they get married, they want to resolve their tax debts. And it makes sense a lot of times to do that before you make major decisions in life, major changes. Let's go ahead and get this taken care of so then you can breathe easy and move on with your life. So get that peace of mind that dealing with your taxes can give you. And a lot of people, when I talk to them, when we explain their rights and options, and they see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, it's like, oh, there is a way out of this. There's almost always a way out, as long as you haven't burned too many bridges. And if you haven't been responding, you can always start responding, deal with this, and again, you can use the balances for your benefit. It can also help you get into homes. It can help you do quite a bit by setting up either a non-collectible status or an offer in compromise, any of those, the main options available to individuals. Once that is resolved, then you can get your passport renewed. And that's resolved by putting you in an installment agreement or in this hardship status or having a successful offer. If you need to fly anytime soon, it makes a lot more sense to do the non-collectible status or the installment agreement because it's quicker. Once the passport revocation has been reversed, then you can go to the State Department and get your passport like normal. But again, it's easier said than done. If you need to file tax returns, if you have to do other things like this, it can take much longer to deal with this. So the key here is if you are dealing with the passport revocation, or if you need to travel and you have tax debt, there's no telling when they can sit there and send it to revocation. They'll usually send you a notice, but once they send you a notice, it's like, we're doing this in 30 days. And it usually takes much longer than 30 days to get something set up. And I've seen people that were so frustrated with how long it was taking the IRS that they just went and paid off their balances, took a loan out or something and just paid off the balance so that they can get their passport back and function, because they needed to travel. So first things first, don't ignore IRS letters. So this is getting back to basics. When you do get these letters and notices, call a tax professional. Get this handled. If you're not sure who to call around. I have whole episodes talking about how to find and pick a good tax professional that's actually going to help you. And then once you know how big the problem is, deal with it head on. So you should be able to get your tax information. The IRS has all of that through transcripts. You can get that online through your irs.gov if you've set up your tax account. And you can take all of that to get your taxes prepared. It's not as good as having your own W-2s, but if you don't have W-2s, just 1099 information, you'll get all the information the IRS has on you. Get those returns prepared. Get them submitted. The IRS is taking longer than ever to process all the returns. I just called on a couple set of returns, business returns. We submitted them and then refaxed them in. So we submitted them in 23, resent them in April. The IRS still isn't showing that they have them. And so they're telling us to resubmit them again a third time. And we fax them in, we get a fax confirmation. Everything that we mail into the IRS, we do with, we send certified. And they're still, it's a bureaucratic nightmare over there. So if you want to get this done, if you need to travel, deal with this issue early. Get on it quickly, and even once it's done, I had a case where the gentleman paid it in full. It still took 2.5 months for the IRS computers to sync up with the State Department. They only talk once a month. They only share information once a month. So it took a couple of cycles for the IRS computers to show that the case was in a resolution. In this case, paid in full. And it still took a couple months for that to connect to the State Department computers. And once it showed in the state that information was sent over to the State Department, that's when he was able to go in and get his passport renewed. And he was able to go and travel again. So, word of the wise, if you do have passport issues, let's get them taken care of. You can always get them taken care of. And if you need to do an offer and compromise, it's not a short process. It's probably a 9 to 12 month process right now in most cases. And that's at least. So plan out. If you do need to travel, you need to get on this sooner, and maybe you set up some other kinds of resolution first and then go for an offer and compromise once that other resolution is set up. The worst thing to do is to buy your tickets and just hold your breath and hope that nothing's happened. Your passport might be revoked and you don't even know it. If you're not sure, you can always call the State Department or the IRS to check and see if your passport's revoked. If you pull your transcripts, your account transcripts at irs.gov, again, mention that you can go and open up your own tax account. It says on your transcripts whether or not your passport was sent, revocation was recommended to the State Department. So it's noted on there when it's revoked, the suspension, that's being deemed seriously delinquent and sent to the State Department. And it's also noted on your transcripts when that's reversed. And so when that's noted on your transcripts that it's been reversed, that's when the computers have to talk to each other from the State Department to the IRS to the State Department. And once that information is transmitted, then you can go back, get your passport renewed, and travel normally. So it is something that is hurting more and more people. It should be very rare that they're doing this, but again, the IRS is using this as another lever to force compliance. And again, I've had people, they thought they were good, they thought that everything was set up, and they got surprised with the passport revocation. And it's not just, like I said, it's 60,000 or more. We've seen cases where 60, 100,000, not $1 million cases that they're going after. It's not people going and summering in Europe every summer. So that kind of statement, I don't think that person is actually handling cases. He might be teaching more than he's actually handling cases or dealing with collection cases. So just like any other day, if you have questions, call us. If you get a passport revocation letter, or if you're getting collection notices, don't wait. Waiting is one of the last things you should do. Get in there, see what's going on with your case, and be ready to handle it. And again, that's why there are tax professionals that can help you, give you the advice you need and steer you in the right direction so that you can be ahead of this, so you can find that peace of mind. We offer free consultation here at Guardian Tax Law, which is my firm, and you can always have us review any letter by emailing it to us at info@guardiantaxlaw.com, or you can go to our website. And there's a link to all of our YouTube videos, or you can call us and just email or fax over your letter, and we do a free letter review. So we'll look at the letter, just send you either a quick text or an email back saying, hey, this is what it actually means. It's nothing to worry about, or this isn't even the IRS, or if there's something to be concerned about, we'll explain the letter. And if there's something to be concerned about, we can then from there set up a free consultation. So know what's going on with your taxes. And most people don't. They think, I don't owe, or I'm not sure if I owed. I have another case right now where someone thought the CPA was going to file. The CPA filed, the tax return was rejected. Now we're 2 years later. I don't think the tax return is ever filed. And it's not the CPA's fault because they attempted to do so. They're losing a return of $8,500. A refund of $8,500 off of that tax return because they didn't make sure their tax return got filed. So it's more important than ever to be aware of and become educated. And again, that's the one thing I have to give IRS kudos about, that they are helping people and making it easier for people to know what's going on with their tax returns and get in there and get it taken care of. So if you have questions, reach out to us. Do it well in advance. If you're trying to buy, sell property, or especially deal with the passport revocation, it takes time. So once we resolve your case, again, at least 2 to 3 months for the different systems to communicate and actually get that information transmitted over so you can get your passport renewed. You do have rights. You do have options. You can contest a passport revocation. It's hard to do, though. Once the IRS certifies it as seriously delinquent, the best way to do it is to resolve your case, which means you need to have your tax returns filed. You have to be paying your current year taxes and be caught up on those, and then make a plan on how you are going to resolve it, something that works for you and your family in the long run. So if you have any questions, again, reach out to us, 520-485-7371. And we'll continue the conversation tomorrow, talking about different tax plans, what's happening in the news, how to prepare for your family and your pocketbooks, and again, some of the understand the different proposals, tax proposals, and ideas being put out there by both candidates, and the pros and cons for both. So try to be fair. I have issues with both candidates' proposals. Just raising tariffs willy-nilly on everybody can definitely hurt the pocketbooks of average Americans. So again, it's not a one size fit all. A lot of it sounds good, but will it actually help? And so that's our whole goal here, is to help make taxes easy. They're never going to be completely easy or stress free, but by working with a tax professional, a good tax professional, it can be made easy. You can have that peace of mind so that you can sleep well and feel comfortable with your situation, knowing that you're taken care of. So have a great day, and we will see you. Pardon me. We'll see you tomorrow for some more fun with taxes, fun with economic news, but trying to make it easy and understandable here at Taxes Made Easy. So have a great day, and we'll talk tomorrow.